Let me first demonstrate to you what you can do with the new scripting engine. So let's take a simple use case. You may have two boxes here and you want to connect these boxes. Of course, you can take the arrow. With the scripting engine, I have a script. I can select them. I have a shortcut, and with the shortcut, the arrow appears. And actually, this is, in this case, an arrow with two intersection points. But say, for example, you have created a drawing for yourself in your stencil library, like I have this robot that I drew with the drawing tool. And I want to put this robot here in the corner of my box. And you can see that this robot now looks quite awful, and I'm already using the thinnest line possible. But I have a script for this, and this is the stroke width script, where I can change this the stroke width. So let me change the width to 0.5. Actually, I can even change it to 0.3, and you can see I can change the width of the line in this case. Or let's say you have another situation, and this happens frequently, that I have this box, but I would like to make this a specific size. So what I can do is I have my dimensions script, and I can actually position it. So this is the X and Y coordinates, and I can also make this specifically a given size. I can make this 300 by 200, for example. And when I'm finished, then you can see that this box is now exactly 300 by 200. Or you know that when you turn on the grid, it is a certain size. This is actually 20 pixels large. But say you want a different grid. So I have another script where I can change my grid. And for this drawing, I can set the grid, for example, to be 50. And with that, of course, when I draw, then snap to grid is going to snap exactly at the 50, 100, 150, etc. points. Or I might have a couple of elements. So let's say I'm going to select everything here, and I want to put a box around this. Of course, this could be some text that I want to put a box around. So then I can choose my box selected element script, and I can add a box around this script, and so on. I think there are many small automation opportunities that you could also call as opportunities to create macros in Excalidraw. And I wanted to make this easier. So until now we had Excalidraw Automate, and that is great, but it was slightly difficult to get this working with Templater and with Quick Add and Data View. It was always a bit tricky. So what I've done is I created some script execution capability in Excalidraw, and you can define a folder. In my case, this is Excalidraw scripts. You can define this folder here in settings. So you can see there's a new settings, Excalidraw Automate script folder. And I've set this to Excalidraw/scripts. This can be anything, except it cannot be the root folder of your vault. And here, these are plain old markdown files. So if I open this here, you can see that this is a markdown file. I have this trick at the top. So this is actually a JavaScript comment, and I put this code block header within this comment. So when the script executes, this is all treated as a comment. On the other hand, Obsidian will do the syntax highlighting for me. So this is an easy way to get syntax highlighting. And I can add scripts here. So you can see all of the scripts I've just demonstrated to you came from this library. Now, if I go back to the drawing, what I'm also doing is I'm placing all of these scripts that I find here, I'm placing them on the command palette. So here, if I search for script, then you can see that those scripts that I've just executed appear in the command palette, and if I add a script here or remove a script, of course the command palette is going to be updated. What this also means is that all of these scripts are also immediately available under hotkeys. So here I can simply filter on my scripts, and these were the shortcuts that I was using previously. Probably you're saying, so far so good. How do I do this? How can I develop a script? So there's a couple of things I want to show you regarding developing a script. So first of all, if I look at this script, if you're familiar with Excalidraw Automate from before, then you will notice that I don't have to define Excalidraw Automate. I also don't need to reset it, and I also don't need to set the view. These are all managed by the scripting engine for you. All I need to do is to run the script. Also, you will notice that there's a line that's commented out here. So if I remove this comment and add the comment here, then you can see that I also pass in a variable called utils. So these are the utility functions. Currently there's a single utility function, the input prompt, and maybe in the future I'm going to add others. But in this case, now that I've made this change to my boxed elements script, I can add a box to this boxed element as well. So I can run my script, and in this case the script is going to ask me, so what's the padding for the box, and I can say this is going to have a very large padding. So I added a padding of 100, and you can see that this box immediately appeared. But how do you develop these scripts? So the easiest way to do that is to start the Obsidian developer console. So this is Control plus Shift plus I, and then the developer console comes up. And in the developer console, here you do need to declare the Excalidraw Automate variable first, and then you do need to run reset. So these are the lines that you don't need to do when the scripting engine is executing your script, but when you're testing your script in the developer console, then you do need this. I need to set my view to the active view. So that is going to be this view right here. And let's say I'm going to set the stroke width for element. So then what I want to do is I want to get the selected elements in my active view. So these are going to be my elements, and I'm going to just choose get view selected elements. Then I need to edit these elements. I need to move them into Excalidraw Automate. So Excalidraw Automate has its own elements. It's called, I have this variable called elements dictionary, and you can see that this dictionary is empty at the moment, but I have a command to copy view elements to EA for editing, and I can specify the elements that I just loaded, so those 36 elements, and now you can see that the elements dictionary has these values. And now I need to process these items, but let's maybe first look at a single element just to understand the structure of this element. So you can choose a single element and you can look at the values, and what we are looking for in this case when we want to set the stroke width is the stroke width variable. And so here I can now understand that if I want to set the stroke width of an element, then I can do that like this. I can choose stroke width, and I can set this to a value, maybe 20 or whatever, right? So, and now if I look at my element, then you will see that I misspelled width, most probably. Yes, indeed, I wrote stork, not stroke. But anyway, you get the idea. So let's now do a function that is going to change the stroke width of all of the elements I want to change. I would do it like this. I would say Excalidraw automate get elements. This is going to get all of the elements from the elements dictionary. And then for each element, what I want to do is, you can see I've already played with this. I want to change the stroke width to maybe 10. So I run this script. Nothing happens yet because I still need to add elements to view. And when I execute this, then all of the elements in my Excalidraw automate are going to be added to the view. And you can see that the stroke width has been increased. So that is the way you can experiment with the code. You can play with the code here in the developer console, and then when you're ready, then you can author your own code, copying out certain lines, and you can see that this is pretty much the code that we developed, except that here I'm using my input prompt to ask for the width. Say, for example, I would want to provide a default value for the width. I can also add a prompt, so this should be a number and or a hint, and I can also add a default value, and maybe the default value is going to be 5. So now if I go back to my drawing, then I can first of all select everything in the drawing. I can choose my stroke width. You can see that the number 5 is here. If I delete this, then you can see it asks for a number, but yeah, I can change the stroke width back to 5. So in terms of documentation, there is plenty of documentation. If I bring up my browser, then I can show you how that works. So this is where you can find more information about Excalidraw Automate, and I recommend first reading the Start Here section. This will explain to you the logic of how Excalidraw Automate works. You will see the various components of an Excalidraw Automate solution. And then when you're done reading this, then I recommend taking a look at the overview of the various attributes and functions available on Excalidraw Automate. And I try to add as much comments here as possible. Of course, there's a more detailed description as well, but I think for most of you, this should be already sufficient information to get started on using Excalidraw Automate. But if you need more information, then for many of the functions at the moment, not for everything, but for many of the functions, I have detailed pages that include some additional information of how to use that function, and in some cases, some examples as well. And also I want to point out that there's this section about the script engine. And if you open this up, then you can see a description of the script engine, how to do the settings. Here's an example code as a screenshot. You can see how the scripts appear in the command palette, and also how you can set hotkeys. I explained about the Excalidraw Automate and the utilities object that are passed to the script here, and you can see here the only function at the moment, input prompt, explained with the input variables. And then here are the scripts that I also demonstrated to you. So these are some of the sample scripts. If you go on to GitHub, then I have a folder in my project called EA Scripts, and I also placed all of my markdown files here. You can either download the files from here, or if you want to copy paste these into your Obsidian Vault, then I recommend changing to raw mode and selecting the entire text and copy pasting this as is into a markdown document in Obsidian, and then it will look as it looked when I showed you in the earlier part of the video. Midterm, I'm going to be looking to add some sort of functionality to Excalidraw that you can install these macros, or you can call them simple plugins, from GitHub directly into your Vault. So I'm going to try to simplify this process, but already I very much hope so that having the script engine, having some of these examples at hand, making it easier to edit in Obsidian, this makes it accessible for a broader audience, because I'm really excited about this. This scripting possibility opens up a whole bunch of new opportunities in terms of using Excalidraw as a diagramming tool, or just simply bridging some of the gaps or some of the missing functionalities that today are not available in Excalidraw yet. You can create simple scripts and you can make those available for yourself. So hopefully you will find this helpful. And also, if you create new scripts, then feel free to share it under discussions here. And also, if you have scripts that you want to publish, then please do a pull request, and I'm happy to add additional scripts to this library of script samples. Thank you.